Hello and welcome to our 15th session, and this is day 4, and we are going to begin our learning journey today with sequencers. So basically, if you have used Premiere Pro or After Effects, you will have an idea about what the sequencers is. So we are going to explore it in Unreal Engine 5.6. So to begin with, whatever content we are going to use here, if you are continuing from day 3, then you can continue with the same project, or if you are starting fresh, you can come into the video description or in the course description, and we have provided you with a link for Patreon. Click on this link and it will take you to the Patreon page, and if you scroll down in attachments, you have two attachments here, camera settings.zip and metahumans.zip. Click on this and download these two files. Now once the file is downloaded, just cut these two files from your downloads folder, come into PCD Unreal projects or the folder where you have saved all your Unreal project, paste it here. Once it is pasted, first select this camera settings.zip file, right click and click on extract all and wait till the files get extracted. Now then select this metahumans.zip file, right click and choose extract all and click extract. Now once it is extracted, select this metahumans, right click and cut this from here and open your camera settings folder, and in that you will have a folder called content, and inside that you have int_vc. Double click to open it, and inside this come here and paste this. Come into your Epic Games launcher, open it, and in Unreal Engine library you can now see your camera settings project, and in version 5.6 I am going to double click and open this project. Now once the project loads, click here clear and then close this, and it is asking one asset editor was open, click here no. We were working on module_2. This clapboard type icon represents the sequencer and used to come into module_2 level sequencer, and when I bring it into the sequencer, you can see both the characters are now sitting. So this is what we call as a sequencer. So in our previous class I had already told you this sequencer is similar to your Premiere Pro project timeline or your After Effects composition, where we place all our actors or objects and animate them over time. I am now going to start by creating a new sequence. I am in module_2, and for today's session I will come into content drawer, content, and inside this int_vc, in maps, in main, you have different levels here. Today I am going to select this module_6, double click this to open this, and inside this you can see we already have 3 cameras set up. As soon as I open the model, the character is standing. If I zoom out, right click, rotate and show you, see the 2 characters are standing. So to add the control rig and make them sit, I have to come into this clapboard icon which is called as the sequencer, and if you open this, already this has one sequencer present in it, and it is called as module_6. So now I will click on this sequencer, and you can now see that both the characters are sitting, and in CU_tray you are seeing the close up of the tray character. In CU_Zeva I am seeing the Zeva character close up, and in white you are not seeing anything, because again here what has happened is, if I right click and if I turn on the other side, you have a wall here. See, you can see this wall, and I have to, this camera has gone beyond the wall, so this wall is blocking it. So I am going to select this wall, and if I come into my outliner, you have this folder called as 06_PD. I will close this and I will click on this icon to hide this wall. In cameras, if I select the wide camera, you can now see the wide view. We are now going to start with a new sequence. So how are we going to create a new sequence? Come into the plus icon over here, and coming into cinematics, I can now create Either I can add it from here, I can just come here and you have this sequence icon here. I can click on this and you have two options here, add level sequence and another is add level sequence with shots. So first we are going to explore this add level sequence, and when I click on this, it is going to ask where you are going to save this new sequence. So in our content int_vc, I will double click, come here in the folder called sequences, and in this I am going to name this as my first sequence and I am going to click save. You have a new sequence open, but here if I right click, turn towards the camera, roll the mouse back, and if I show you the scene, I will turn here, press Q and come down. I will slightly roll the mouse back to decrease the camera speed to 0.2. I will press E, and if you see the characters here, I will press W, move on this side and then turn up, and I will show the two characters. See, the one character is standing, one character is sitting, so you are not seeing the rig applied over here. In this, there is an issue because these characters I have taken from Unreal version 4 MetaHuman. It was created about 3 to 4 years back, and so when I am using it, the rig is not compatible with the new MetaHuman version. So because of this, what happens is, if I come into file and if I choose save all, I will save everything, and in this sequencer I am now going to come, if this is too much messed up, I will scroll to the top, shift click here and again open it, everything is closed, and inside this int_vc I have character and I have this bp_tray character. If I try to drag it and put it here, your Unreal Engine is going to crash. The control rig and RM, you can see here, VM rig is not compatible and it is going to crash. So now I am going to click here, send and close to restart Epic Games Launcher, and I will come into library and double click on this camera settings again to launch it. I have to add the character and the control rig separately. This is a turnaround, and these are the kind of problems that you actually face when you are migrating your old assets to your newer version. As soon as I launch it, I am getting the message log. I will click clear here. I am now going to come into my content drawer and in int_vc maps main, I am now going to launch module_6. I will double click and launch it. Now here if you come into this clapboard icon, you can see that we have our module_6 and also our newly created sequence here. First open this module_6 sequencer. In this sequencer you can see that both the characters are sitting. I will right click, turn and show it. So the control rig is applied. I will come into this sequencer and you have this characters folder. I will just select this, right click, and I am going to choose the option here, copy. Copy this. Now come into your sequence, my first sequence, and here you can see one character is standing, one character is sitting, and now I will come here and I am going to paste this. You can see that both the characters are placed, but this places only the character, but control rigs are not placed. So that's why you doesn't have the pose applied here. I will come into file, choose save all, and then I will come back here to module_6. I will open characters, and if I open this bp_tray, you have one MetaHuman_control rig here. Right click this and copy this. Now come into my first sequence and here select bp_tray and just paste this. So the rig is applied to this now. Similarly, now come back here to module 6 and now select the second character bp_zeva, and even in this you have this MetaHuman control rig. Copy this control rig here. Come back here to my first sequence and here select the bp_zeva, right click and paste it. So now you can see that both the characters are in the right position. Then I will come into the outliner here, and if I select cu underscore tray, you can see the tray character close up, cu underscore Zeva character is close up, and in wide angle again I have the issue here because the background has to be hidden again. I will right click, turn on the other side, select this wall, I will come here, select this 06 underscore PD folder, and I will click hide. So when I hide it, and if I scroll up, and now if I select the wide, you can see the wide character. So I will come into file and choose save all, and after making all these setups, now we are going to start working on the sequencer. Now if you come into the sequencer, in the sequencer as of now you can see we have added in the character folder 2 characters and its control rig. To see the view here, I will right click and turn and see the view here. I want to build my story. And how do we build story? By shots. How do we take the shots? By using camera. So the very first shot, which camera I am going to use? Based on the screenplay or storyboard you have prepared. Right now here I am going to select this wide camera, drag it and put it into the sequencer. So as soon as I drag it, you can see the wide camera added here, and you can see this icon which turns blue. This means the view here you are seeing is actually this camera view. If I switch it off, this is perspective view, and if I switch it on, this is the camera view. So right now I will come over here and press G to hide all other items. Now when I am working with the sequencer, it is always better to use the cinematic viewport. So for that I will come over here in this window, and you have this cinematic viewport. So I will click on cinematic viewport. Right now view range is up to 165 and the render range is up to 150. So now I am going to click on this 165. I am now going to make a 600 frame animation. So now these animations are in frames, and even here you can see everything is in frame number. And the very first thing in the sequence you have to set is what should be the frame rate of your sequence. This should be equal to the camera frame rate. So here I am going to set this to 24 frames per second for film. I am going to come down, and in show time as, instead of frames I am going to select seconds. When I close it, you can now see these numbers are shown in seconds. So now 600 seconds means, so I have around 20-second clip here. My playback range is only 5 seconds. Okay, this also I will click here and I will type 20 and set it to 20 seconds. If you see on the sequencer top, you have all the options here. The very first option here is the kind of modular editor we are going to use. I am going to tell you about this later. The second button is the save button, and the third button is to see this sequencer in the container. If I click here, you can see this sequence, my first sequence where it is in the container, and this is to create a new camera. So this we had done it in our previous session, and here to render this movie we use this icon. And then you have blueprint sequence. Right now we are not using. You have some actions that can be applied. So these things we will discuss it later. And then this view, what all has to be shown in this, you can enable or disable. Then you have playback controls here, and this is keyframe. Now if you have already worked on the animation, you might know what is a keyframe, and the keyboard shortcut for that is yes. And when you click on it, you can add here, you have key all, key group, key change, you have various options, and you have type of key. This we will discuss it later. Right now it is cubic. Now if I click on this line, you can see a timeline head which is going to move, and as it moves you can see the number here. This indicates the current time, I am going to set my current time to 0, and at 0 I am going to come into my wide camera, and in transform and location this camera has to be selected. I have selected the camera. You can see the wide camera has been selected. Press here, either I can press here and add the keyframe, or I can even press. I am going to move this to around 4 seconds. I want this to move in. I am now going to come out of the camera. I will press eject here and come out, and I am now going to come into the top view, and I will press F. I will come into this camera view, and I am going to move this camera along the x axis. See, I will just move it like this, and in the preview you can see till both the actors are covered like this. At this point, I can either add the keyframe by clicking here or by clicking the key S. So now if I press S, you can see that the location keyframe has been added. Come back here to my camera view, wide view. I will come into the camera view, press here G to hide everything, and then if I click the play button, you can see my camera is slowly moving in. Congratulations, we have successfully created our very first animation. I will come back here to frame 0. When it is at this point, I want the camera to be blur. If you come into the camera components here, if I drag it and make it a slight bigger, you can see the names here. I will select here my camera, come into the details, and in details if I scroll down, you have focus setting. I will open focus setting, and right now the focus method is set to tracking, and when I am doing manual focus, this I have to set it to manual. Tracking will not work when you are animating the focus. I am now going to enable this focus plane, and I am going to move it, and see, this is clear focus. Okay, now I will off this and move it back like this, so that the picture is blur like this. So initially at 0 seconds the picture is blurred. Now at 0, in focus distance, I am going to click here and add a keyframe. I am going to set this value to 2 seconds, and at 2 seconds I am going to enable this focus plane, and I am going to move it slightly forward and focus this clearly, and then I am going to add. So either by clicking here in focus distance, by clicking here, I am going to add a keyframe. So now I will switch off this focus plane, and now if I rewind and if I play this, you can now see we have got our shot ready. So I will just rewind and play again. See, you can see it clearly focuses and comes closer. Now I will come into file, and I am going to choose save all to save this project. Okay, now from 4 seconds I want to add my second camera. So for that I will come into the outliner, I will open the camera, and the next camera I am going to add is this cu_tray. I am now just going to drag it and add it into my sequencer, and once I add it into my sequencer, you are going to see this as an active camera. Now in this, I need an animation where the camera starts from the side and comes into the front. So this will be the final frame, and for that reason I am going to move at 10 seconds. But before I add the keyframe, since I am moving the camera, to control the camera correctly now, I am going to shift my axis from world space coordinate to local coordinate, and selecting the local coordinate, then at 10 seconds I am now going to close this camera component, open transform, and I am going to add a keyframe for location and rotation. I am going to move back to my frame 4 seconds, and at 4 seconds I want this to be moved to the side. Now you may ask, why did I change this to local coordinate means? To show you the difference, I will just eject from here and I will come into the top view, and in the top view I will come into this screen now and press G to enable the camera. So now the camera is visible, and now you can see that in the preview you are seeing this. I can move this along the x axis and control it more precisely. See, I can move this to side and left easily when I use the local axis instead of the global axis. See, if I enable global axis, it will be very difficult to move the camera. So that's why I have enabled the local axis, and then I am now going to actually press E and take the rotation tool, and I am going to rotate it like this. See, I will rotate the camera, you are seeing the preview there, and then I am going to press W and I am going to move it to the side like this, and I will also move it slightly to the back like this. So this will be the initial position. So to see it better, I will come back into the CU tray view, and this is the initial position. So for this position, now again I will add one location keyframe, but when I added the location keyframe, see the position altered, and also I will add the rotation keyframe. And actually after I add the keyframe, because there is some bug, I have to again now come into the top view. I am just going to rotate it like this, okay, and then I will come into my CU tray view, okay. So or I will just come here, off this and on again, okay. So now this is the view, and now if I just move it, see this is, there is some issue because of which it is not animate. See, it is moving like this, but I am not getting the rotation correctly, okay. So what I will do is, again I will move it to that. I am going to come here, and in this view I will come here, and along the z axis I will rotate it like this. Rotation, I will add a keyframe again, and now I will move it, okay. So now the animation is working fine, see. So I had to reset it once. So now I have from 4 to 10 seconds, I have this animation running, okay. So now I will close this. So now wide camera will move from 1 to 4, and then from 4 to 10 I have this close up shot moving like this. Then from 10 second to 16 second, I need the movement of this Zeva camera. So for that I will come back here into 10 second, and at 10 second I will drag this CU Zeva camera also into the scene. Now this is the active camera, and you can see that in this MetaHuman even the hair is flying, okay. We have added motion to it. So we are going to discuss about this MetaHuman in detail later. Now adding this, now I will close the camera component, and in the transform here this will be the starting position. So I will add both the location and rotation, both the keyframes I have added at 10 seconds, and then I will move this and type here 16 seconds, and coming to 16 seconds, now I am going to rotate it along the z axis like this. Then along the y axis slightly I will move it, and along the x axis I will bring it here. Along the y axis I will move it a little closer like this, okay. Along the z axis I will move it here, and if required along the y axis I will slightly tilt it down, okay. So now I have got this image. So this will be the final frame. So I will add location and rotation keyframes. So again here I have an issue, it rotated. So I am now going to come into the rotation, and I am going to set the Z rotation correctly again. and again I will click on this rotation. So, now if you can see, the camera moves from here to here like this. So, now we have 3 cameras here. So, I will move this Zova camera also to the top, and what I will do is to organize this better, I will right click here and I am going to add one folder here, and I am going to call this folder as cameras, and inside this cameras folder I will drag all the 3 cameras and place it inside this, so that it is organized correctly. Now, to switch the camera, we are going to use this feature called as the camera cuts. So, if I enable this camera cut now, and if I come to the first shot here, see here I will come to camera cut and you have this plus button. The very first shot I need is from wide. I am going to select this wide camera and I will select the wide camera, and this will be the very first shot. So, when I play this, the camera moves like this and it comes to 4 seconds, and as soon as it comes to 4 seconds, now I will come into this plus button, and now I am going to select CU_tray camera, and you can see here a cut appeared. So, now see till here this camera will come and then this camera is going to move. So, using this camera cuts, I can add different cameras for different shots. So, I will move it like this till 10 seconds. I will again click here and now I am going to select the CU_Zeva camera, and now 10 to 16 this shot is going to move. I am going to now completely rewind it and I am going to play it. This is the first shot, then you have the second shot moving like this, then you have the third shot moving like this. Okay. I will go into file and I am going to choose save all. And now if you want this to be rendered and delivered, then I am now going to go into this movie icon here, render this movie. You have this icon here, click on this, and now and in this you have settings. If I click on the setting here, if you come here in settings, I can select I am going to choose this H264 MP4 setting. Now, the quality and all this I will leave it as it is. I will click accept, and then this is the location and the sequence name is mentioned here. If you want, you can write the author name, you can write your name, this will enter into the EXIF data. Then if I click on render local, now this entire video will be rendered. So, you can see the rendering happening. See, and now you have the third camera which is going to render now. It is showing some blueprint error. Don't worry, you can just clear this and close this. Now, I will close this render and now come into the folder where you have the project, that is in D Unreal projects. If you come into your camera settings and inside the camera settings saved movie renders, you also have individual frames here rendered. Okay. And if you move down, you have this my first sequence.mp4 file. You can now open this file and you can play this. So, this is the final video that we have rendered. Okay. See, we have made this movie ready. See, this is the third shot. So, now with this we are going to conclude our first part of this sequencer job, and in our next session we are going to discuss about how these camera movements can be done using dolly and zip. As an assignment, I want you to have your own set. Say for example, you can use this project or the broadcast studio project. Take any project, create a sequence and then add 3 cameras and create 3 shots, render the video and share this video to us.